Hello and welcome to this video with the lovely Liz Nagle. We've been inspired to do a series of videos. At the moment, we're thinking of calling it Lessons in Self-Mastery. That might change and evolve like a lot of other things going on, but at the moment it feels right. So we just wanted to get together and have some of our conversations about various things that have woken us up, or various things that have helped us learn about energy, or has helped us master ourselves. So we just like talking about all these things, and if it resonates with others, then that's a bonus. So welcome again, lovely Liz Nagle. Is there anything you want to say or share before we get started?
Just that it's always a pleasure, and it's always well, while we talk about self-mastery, you know, it's a process, and it's not something I've mastered as such. It's a process of discovery, I think. Yeah, and so let's share it.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's like our last video, actually. I will put a link to our last video, and I'll put the video in the end screen. But we were using the word realization a lot, weren't we? Self-realization. Yes. So self-mastery and self-realization kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? And yeah, I totally agree with you that it's an ongoing process, of course. You hear about some people, you know, some spiritual teachers who, you know, I love and follow and what have you, but they refer to their spiritual awakening from 2012 or something like this. And some people have very quick and abrupt spiritual awakenings. We know that Anita Moorjani did as well, didn't she, with her stage 5 cancer? She died for 9 minutes or something. I'm not quite sure about that, but the near-death experience brings people that awakening on a much more kind of abrupt level. But a lot of us just kind of poco. A lot of us kind of, I can think back to my life where there's been a number of different situations and events that have given me aha moments or experiences to wake up much more gradually. Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. I think it's preferable to a near-death experience, although I can see the advantages of both.
Yeah.
So
I talk about my near-death experiences, and it's not that I nearly died, although one of them was a car crash, all right, but I was fine. It was, you know, when my partner died, and I was close to his death, and it was the death of my life as I knew it. So so that I call that a near-death experience, and that was 2012 also, coincidentally. So that was a major kind of awakening or opening for me. But there had been many other ups and downs, you know, before that, and realizations and aha moments, a bit like a game of snakes and ladders. You know, I'd climb the ladder to some sort of realization, and then I'd fall down the snake and go to sleep again, and then I'd wake up again, and then I'd go to sleep again. But yeah, 2012 and Brian's, my near-death experience, my near to his death, and the death of life as I knew it, and ego, and everything that I believed or thought to be true ended. And so yeah, that was kind of the big one that I haven't sort of slipped back from, really. Not with little minor slips, you know, on a daily basis, but mostly.
I think that's a topic for a video in itself, is the growth through grief. I think that's something that I think a lot of people would benefit from and relate to.
I've spoken about that before, you know, in other interviews.
Yes,
but,
yes, I've seen your video on that. That's massive, but I think it's a very relevant topic to look into, to do a deep dive, as they say these days. It's funny about 2012 though, isn't it? Because that's the year I married my husband. Although I met my husband, rather, not married him, but I met him in 2012. And I always think that, you know, I think things happened in 2012 that were meant to help us on our path. And he definitely has helped me on mine. So it's interesting. But then, as you said, there's been little ones, haven't there? There've been little ones that go on. And I like that thing about death. I mean, we worked together on when I faced death. It wasn't near-death experience like Anita Morjani, but you remember when I got the death card for flying to India, and it was like, you know, to get the death card for the trip to India would have implied great transformation, but this was specifically for the flight, and to get the death card specifically for a flight, most people would change their flight. And I think you even said to me, are you going to change your flight? Because it was already booked. And I said to you, no, I'm not. So, you know, you could argue that that's nothing like a near-death experience, and I would accept that. But for me, there was this, you know, kind of like, you know, I'm getting on a flight that my trusted cards are telling me it has the death card. But as it happened, it was a return flight. And it was the flight back again that I experienced some massive transformation. So it was actually true in the form of transformation during the return flight. So, but I didn't know that going, did I?
No. And okay, you know, anybody looking at it could say, come on, Deborah, that's not the same thing. But it's, you know, it's how you perceived it. And for you, you actually faced a big fear getting on that plane. Because
I trusted my cards so much.
You trust your cards, but also you used to have a fear of flying. So, you know, you overcame that. That was a big transformation. So you had a fear of flying. You're going on this long haul flight and you have the death card, and you're kind of, so you're faced into that. And so it was very transformative.
It was facing that fear. That's what it is, isn't it? It's facing that fear, because the other experience that I've had, which again I do refer to as a near-death experience, it's something I keep saying I'm going to write about and I haven't done yet. My conversations with God is the only way I can talk about it, which happened February last year. After you know, after eating too much space cake. There you go, I said it on camera. But I remember it so clearly. I won't go into the details of it all, but just that bit about God was saying to me, walk into the light, walk into the light. And I was saying, I'm not ready to walk into the light. I've got things to do. And I was defensive and justifying why it wasn't my time to walk into the light. And God was saying, but you are the creator and you choose to be here. And if you want to come back again, you can come back again, you know. So you don't believe that you're God. You don't believe that you're the creator. You know, you think it's final. And these were the conversations going on. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I overcame that fear. I think I just got overtired and I just couldn't fight anymore. I couldn't resist. I was in resistance to walking into the light, and I couldn't resist anymore. And I literally just surrendered. I surrendered to God. I surrendered to the light. And the next thing I knew, I was just asleep in my bed and waking up feeling fine. And so it was, some would say that was a dream, but, you know, it was the reality to me. But it was that feeling, it was the emotion again. It's that release of fear. It's that release of fear, isn't it? It's that feeling of facing death.
Surrendering. Yeah, I mean,
surrendering to it. Yeah. Wow, well, they were the big cases. So we've just talked about our biggest cases, really, haven't we? But I'm kind of interested in this session, as it is one of our first videos, to on this theme, to actually look back, because I think hindsight's great, isn't it? I mean, there's all sorts of things. I was saying to you earlier off camera that when I was younger, I used to use the word sense instead of think. I would often say, you know, I sense that you're not happy today, or I sense you want to do this. And I wasn't aware or, you know, thinking anything about it, but someone pulled me up on it, kind of ridiculed me about it, to be honest. And at the time, you know, it didn't really register. But now looking back, I realized that that was a sign that I am clairsentient. And I feel things, rather than, you know, I didn't hear you say it, I didn't see you say it. I felt the situation, I felt the energy. So anyone watching that isn't aware of clairsentience, clairvoyant, clairaudience, and claircognient, they're your 4 ways of perceiving energy. And it can relate to how you study at school. If you were visual and you always used colors and mind maps, and you could visualize the board at school, and then you're probably clairvoyant, as in you can see maybe colors, auras, things like this, maybe shadows and stuff. If you're clairaudient, as the name suggests, you hear. So you're one of those people that can learn just through listening. You're one of these people that will probably hear messages from the divine through music, or voices in your head even. You can hear the noises and stuff, and sound will be very, very soothing for you. Clairsentient, you feel it. So these are the students that like to do it for themselves. They're the ones that like to, you know, like in science, you know, they can see it and hear it, but they're not going to really believe it or take it on board until they experiment themselves, because they want to feel the whole process. And claircognient is those students that just already know it. The divine wisdom ones that just already know it.
They have an inner knowing. Yeah,
they have just an inner knowing. But as a teacher for 30 years, I'm aware of kids in the class that were always like that. There's always some that already knew what you were teaching. So which out of those 4 are you, Liz, would you say, or dominant? I think we're a little bit of all of them, but which one are you dominant?
I'd say clairsentient, although no, I am clairsentient. I feel things, you know, and I started out as a massage therapist, you know, and I could really get a sense of what was going on for people through touch. But also now I suppose it's more developed, like when I can tune into an energy, what's going on with somebody, or where a pain is coming from, or what might be the cause of it. So yeah, it's just sensing their energy fields, what's going on in their energy fields. But you know, having said that, I'm not one of those people who walks into a room and can immediately sense the energy. You know, it often takes, it's often in hindsight I read it. I don't actually, maybe I put a barrier up to it, or maybe I just let it all flow through me, and it's afterwards when I try and analyze it, then I can, or tune into it. If I do, then I can sense it. So, you know, I could be having a conversation with a friend and they're saying they're fine and everything's fine, and I'm treating them like they're fine. And it's later, I'll go home and I'll think, they weren't fine. Actually, there was something up. Why didn't I ask them there and then? Why didn't I say it? But, you know, that's me. It's in hindsight, I feel it, or in hindsight, I cognize it. At the time, I don't register the sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, because I think I'm a little bit different. I think, but again, it could be to do with the energy center from the soul reading, the soul profile, because being divine truth, dominant in divine truth, I can tell when people aren't being honest. I can feel it, but I can also usually see it and hear it and everything. But that's probably because that is my dominant energy center. And in my younger days, I would have said something straight away. I would have said, well, that's not true. Or why are you saying that? But I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's interesting.
Maybe, yeah, it is interesting because what's my energy center is third energy center.
Your first one is the first divine compassion.
Divine compassion. So I just accept if somebody says to me they're fine, I'll say, okay, I'm fine. That's what you want to say. I'll just accept it. Yeah, I'll take.
But they would have benefited from being in your energy because it's so highly compassionate. So it's how you use it though. With the truth, it's how you use it. I have to, it's if you're more conscious, you have to be conscious about your behavior to use the positive characteristics of your energy center and not the negative ones. So, but anyway, interesting. So yeah, suddenly you're talking about massage. I just wanted to come back to that because I started well, obviously I was a school teacher for years, as I often say, but on the energy field, on the energy playground, I started as well with massage. In fact, I actually was drawn to reflexology as that was my first lead into this whole energy psychology, I want to call it, because I had reflexology. Someone had recommended it when I was pregnant, and I had liked it, but I didn't understand it all, but I had enjoyed it. So I wanted to study reflexology, and I was just going to do, and this is interesting how the universe works, of course, how I created it this way. I was just going to do a part-time course in reflexology while teaching full-time, right? But then my beautiful Auntie Joyce passed away and left me just enough money to keep me and my son for a year. And it gave me the opportunity to take a year out of teaching. And while I was looking for a reflexology course, I found reflexology within the holistic therapy diploma course. It was a full-time course, and it included massage and Swedish massage, aromatherapy, Indian head massage, Reiki. It included all of it, plus your health and safety and all of anatomy and all of that. So I was like, wow, I'm going to take a year out of teaching and do this holistic therapy course. So that was the universe, really giving me that as a gift, or my Auntie Joyce giving it to me as a gift. So yes, I started off with massage. So kind of like on the physical, it was, I mean, we know it works on all energy levels, massage, but beginning, you're thinking it's physical, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I think we've been so programmed to kind of dismiss energy a lot. Well, I had been up to that point that, I needed something tangible and physical to justify my spending time and money on doing this course. That, I could say, oh, well, I'm a massage therapist, and generally people would get it, would understand it. Whereas if I went straight in to say, do Reiki or something, then, that would have been just too much of a jump for me even. Yeah, so yeah, I think you start with something,
Tangible.
you something gradual and practical. Maybe that's how I did too.
Exactly. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's for us as well, because I remember also having Reiki many years beforehand. Someone had recommended it, and this is before I understood energy. And I was lying on the couch, and of course it was not a hands-on, it was a hands-off kind of thing. And I felt better afterwards. I felt relaxed. But I was a full-time working single mum at the time, and so the luxury of lying on a couch for an hour was going to make me feel good anyway, right? But there was a part of me that was thinking, is she doing anything? What's happening? Yes, I do feel better, but surely that's just because, you automatically find other reasons to explain why you feel better. So that's interesting because, because now with massage, when I massage now, although I am touching, I'm doing hands-on massage, there's all the energy as well. It's an emotional healing experience. because it's working definitely on the non-physical as well. We can release trapped emotions during physical massage. You know, we can release all sorts of things. So it's kind of really powerful. But that's our awareness of what we're doing. So in the beginning, you're right. In the beginning, a lot of people do just perceive it as physical, and I think that's why a lot of people they take a long time to trust Reiki. I think because of the fact that people are sitting there, you know, is a non-touch treatment. And I have talked in one of my previous videos about one of my earliest awakenings to the power of energy, which was in my Reiki class. And I remember being at the back of the class. There was 3 of us working on one colleague. One was at the feet, I was at the head, and there was somebody in the middle. And the girl on the couch had she had been working all weekend. It was a Monday, and she had been working all weekend with a chainsaw kind of thing, a hedge cutter, and her arms were absolutely, you know, stiff and aching and all sorts of things. And I was sitting at her head thinking about my shopping list and stuff like that, and I wasn't really with it. I mean, I didn't really get this Reiki business, you know. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, my arms just, and I just lost the use of my arms temporarily, and I panicked. And my Reiki master, who was at the front of the class, she could just see energetically help written above my head. She just like was looking up, and she could just see help. And there was me kind of in this panic with my arms like this, and she came and cleared the energy arms, and woke me up basically to, oh my goodness, the power of energy. And then she just laughed because she knew I'd been a skeptic. She knew I was skeptical about the whole thing, very respectfully. I mean, I was in the class, I wasn't ridiculing anybody, I just wasn't feeling it during Reiki sessions. I just wasn't feeling anything or seeing anything. And she just kind of smiled and she said, you understand it now, don't you? And yes, so that was one of my first awakenings to the power of energy.
So yeah, so and that was a year-long course. So what else did you do? How did you find that? Because that was like a complete change of tack for you, was it?
Well, there must have been something on some level within me that was respectful and understanding that there was something in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in the class, would I? And also reflexology, you know, the fact that you're, you know, stimulating the end points of meridian lines. So I was very open to energy in that way. I think I just wasn't awake to the power of it, or to the power of the universe in teaching you lessons, or we could say the power of our own creation, the power of our own creative abilities to teach us what we needed to learn in certain times. I would, you know,
experience that we need in that time, to teach us that lesson.
But I didn't see it all like that then.
No, but it's like you go along learning poco, as you say, little by little, and you know, it's like something in your psyche goes, oh, for fuck's sake, just get on with it, you know, and here, learn this lesson quickly so you can move on.
Well, that's exactly what it was, I think. That's exactly what it was, because, you know, it was obviously holding me back in the experience of Reiki and stuff. And obviously my Reiki master knew and could tell. So yeah, that was a great awakening. And well, I think it was the reflexology that kind of led me to understand the relevance of emotions, because we had to have a what do you call it, a case study. We had to find two people to work on once a week for 10 weeks. And we were warned that after 4 or 5 weeks, they might opt out because of what they called healing crisis. You know, but the people that I worked on, I mean, the change that they made in their life, and of course, even at the time, I wasn't crediting it to reflexology. I was like, other things were happening in their life. But you have to understand that we were working together on their energy, which of course we know now is your energy that's creating your reality. So it could have all been relevant. And one of the girls I was working on go through a massive healing crisis. but obviously she needed to. And so I really saw the power of reflexology. You know, in a one-off session is lovely and relaxing, and it helps, you know, the flow and your well-being. But have a course once a week, you know, for 10 weeks, and you'll see change. It's amazing, because it does obviously work on all energy levels. So I noticed the relevance of emotions, and of course, I don't know how I found it. This day, I don't know how I found it, but I was obviously ready for it because the emotion code came into my awareness online somehow. The next thing I knew, I was on a train going to Barcelona to meet Dr. Bradley Nelson in person and to attend the seminar up there. I then became the second person in Spain to qualify as an emotion code practitioner. And it just made perfect sense to me that obviously these emotions that we haven't been expressing are held within us and are causing us problems and sickness, malfunction and disease and illness. And obviously we want to get them out. And I didn't understand that other people couldn't understand that, because I was still teaching at the school at the time and I was embracing this emotion code. I needed some guinea pigs, case studies for my training. And I was asking people around me, thinking that everybody would jump at the opportunity, thinking that everybody would understand. And I remember walking in the staff room and hearing everybody ridiculing me and not getting it at all. And I was like, oh my God, you don't understand the importance of your emotions. And I was just like, it was really interesting to me.
I think it's a cognitive dissonance, really, because most of us are very afraid of dealing with our emotions and having them come to the surface. I mean, you know, we spend our lives just trying to ignore them and bury them, especially the deeper, darker ones that cause us the real trauma. So, you know, it's not that they don't get it. They do. They just don't want to have to look at it and deal with it. So it's easier to ridicule and walk away.
Yeah, and it's always easier to ridicule stuff that you don't understand. I mean, you know, we all do that, or maybe not ridicule it, but we all, like you say, cognitive dissonance. We do project things that we don't understand. But the emotion code gave me that insight into the relevance of our emotions. And anyone looking at my YouTube channel will see that that's mainly emotional healing is you know, one of the main things I'm interested in. So yeah, so how did you make the jump from massage then into energy healing?
Well, yeah, I did the massage course. Yes, I know. And that's, I was just working as a massage therapist. I had been working in corporate world, and I got the opportunity to take a nice redundancy package. So I decided that's when I did the massage course, and then I started to just work as a massage therapist. And I found myself, because I was always interested in diet and nutrition, and you know, I'd been a raw foodie before it was trendy, and not for very long, but I had tried. I was vegetarian, you know, again, when all the vegetarians I knew just ate chips. Nobody really knew anything about how to stay healthy. They just didn't want to eat meat, and I didn't want to eat meat, but I wanted to be healthy, and I had a young child who I wanted to be healthy. So I had already got 10 years of kind of self-education on nutrition. And then I did the massage course. But I found with my clients, I was always kind of giving them bits and pieces of advice about, you know, changing their diet. But I felt I wasn't qualified. So I thought I was always referring them to other people. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a course in nutrition or something like that. And I found a course in naturopathy. And but even then I was still into the very practical things. I think I had already done a Reiki course and stuff like that, but like you, I was going through I could feel the energy. I could feel it in my body. And obviously, I was working as a massage therapist. I could feel the energy there, but I was still, didn't really quite get the power of it, I think. And I when I was doing the diet and I chose herbal medicine as my kind of specialization rather than acupuncture or homeopathy were the other two options. Because to me, herbal medicine was more real, it was more tangible. There were actual plants there. That made sense to me. Acupuncture, I didn't quite get, and homeopathy, I really didn't know much about. I mean, I kind of knew on some level that it worked, but my mental side was saying it can't possibly work. How could that possibly be? So yeah, even choosing to do naturopathy and herbal medicine, I was still staying on the ground level of practical things. So yeah, it was only when because even in that course, then we started, we did little kind of mini courses in acupuncture and homeopathy as well, and flower essences and that sort of thing. And it was drip by drip by drip. And then, realizing that actually herbal medicine is hugely energetic also, it's all energy, really. Bit by bit by bit, that started to just trickle down the energy side of it. And of course, the raw food as well. Then I got back into that. And seeing the importance of the energy of, that we're eating foods that are vibrating at high levels, so organic food and stuff like that. She's saying sitting here, and I'm not a raw foodie anymore, but I do understand why I should be, sort of, should. But I'm not at the moment, but I do understand the energetics of it. Yeah, am I answering your question, or am I just rambling?
Well, you're still keeping it in the physical, because you're saying that you're still looking at the foods physical. But I'm thinking it's your experience in 2012, with the passing of your partner, that maybe was that what actually shifted you into, I want to say, operating in the non-physical, because your healing sessions now are very non-physical.
Yeah, no, I had shifted long before that, really.
Okay.
I think by the time I sort of finished my naturopathy course, which was, it was 3 years, I think, not full time, but 1 weekend a month, like 3-day week, 2-3-day weekends, and then 700 hours of clinic work as well. So it was actually took me 7 years to train.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, I was working throughout that, but yeah, so I trained in live blood analysis, and then I did thermography. I trained in that, and seeing the heat patterns throughout the body. I don't know when it started, or when the shift happened, but I just started to see everything as having a pattern, an energetic pattern to it, understanding E equals MC squared, everything is energy, matter is energy, everything is just molecules moving at different rhythms and different vibrations. Yeah, it was a slow but sure process.
And what about biomagnetics? Because you were doing, when I first met you, you were very into that.
Yeah, that came on a bit later, but again, before Bren died. Yeah, again, but again, at a very physical level, I was using actual magnets on actual people. And whereas now I just energetically use the points and the idea of the polarity. But I think for me that's how I had to learn it. You know, I had to learn the basics. It's like, you know, you start working in an office as the post boy or the post girl, you know, and you start in the mail room and you learn the way, you learn more and more about the business as you work your way up. Yeah, so I started at the very practical ground level. Well, I found practical level for me, maybe still too woo-woo for other people, but I started at the ground level, and, you know, I learned about the magnets, I learned about the polarity, I learned about the points and how we, the polarity will change the pH on a physical level. So the energy, how the energy affects the physical. The energy of the poles and the magnets affects a physical change in the body by changing the pH. And by changing the pH, then you're actually bringing the body back into homeostasis. Learning about homeostasis, learning that the body can heal itself, realizing that, I mean, that was huge. I mean, it's just, like, for me now, it's like so obvious, but that was huge. Learning that I could actually heal myself.
Yeah,
the body.
Yeah, it's so huge that some of us have written a book about it.
But it's actually not me healing myself. It's my body is healing itself without my involvement. Yeah. Actually, I just get in its way. My mind just gets in the way. You know, it's like if I focus on my breathing, sometimes I kind of go, you know, it makes me panic. Whereas if I just let the body get on with breathing, it does it perfectly well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the body is able to heal itself because it is a living organism, and it's not just a body. It's like a whole community.
Miracle. Oh, I want to say miracle.
Bringing it down to the practical building blocks. It's bacteria and virus, and you know, it's a community of living organisms living as one organism.
It's the universe in cell form.
Well, yes, I'm not even going that deep with it. I'm only going to the physical level. Obviously, it goes back to trillions of cells also, and you know, and then atoms and whatever. But just on a physical level, it is a community, all living in harmony. Well, trying to live in harmony. Sometimes there's a bit of fighting goes on over, you know, territory or whatever. So that's when you bring in the peacekeepers, the pH, bring it all back.
Like what you did there.
You bring back the pH to normal kind of default setting, and everything just falls into place without my control.
It is. I mean, the body is amazing. I mean, you know, people that don't believe in miracles, I find it hilarious because, you know, you've only got to look at a flower or look at your own body to see a miracle in operation, I think. But yeah, what I did find interesting was how you went from using the biomagnets physically to using them visually, because that's quite similar to, and I have on my channel the 3 ways of using the emotional freedom technique. I'm a big fan of the emotional freedom technique, the tapping one that people call it tapping. And the last way that I like to use it is visually. I don't even tap. I remember, like you said, we preferred to when I didn't like flying, and I didn't want to be seen to be doing this, you know, on a crowded aeroplane. And so I just tapped in my head visually, you know, to such an extent that I could create the feeling and the sensations of it all, and that's really powerful, I think. And so yeah, I mentioned that in my EFT tapping video. So it's interesting how we can take obviously these physical things and we can literally visualize them, because that's obviously how we created things in the first place, is through the level of our consciousness and where we put our focus and stuff like that. So interesting. So I'm not sure whether we've actually got on to when you made that jump into energy. I'm not sure whether there was a specific point. We obviously there was a gradual, yeah, it's a gradual thing, isn't it? Because I think for me, I made that jump from emotion code to soul realignment, because I found emotions in past lives. With the emotion code, I got so excited about it. I contacted the team, Dr. Bradley Nelson's team, only to be told that they're Mormons, they don't believe in past lives, and so they weren't interested in it. But I was so excited about it because I used it on myself, and it led to a lot of my own past life healing that was really poignant, which was actually very relevant to releasing the fears from flying. It wasn't actually about flying, it was about confinement, but yeah. So that was kind of an interesting one. So that got me into realizing past lives and the importance of the energy that we bring into this lifetime from other lifetimes. And so I studied soul realignment with Andrrea Hess. I can put a link in the description to her free webinar about her course, because I highly recommend it, of course. And I experienced massive aha moments throughout that. I remember when I was watching the course, I remember just having this feeling all the time of, oh yeah, of course. It was like I was remembering rather than learning, although it's kind of like it was out of my experience. But I was all the time, it was just like, oh my God, of course. Oh my God, of course. Oh my God, of course. It was like that all the way through. And so I definitely experienced awakening during my soul realignment practitioner course, which is why I recommend it so much. And then that obviously talks about all sorts of it. That expands if you do all the other courses available through her, Andrrea Hess. There's business courses where your business is an entity and everything is energy, and you can access it in the Akashic records. Everyone and everything is energy and can be accessed in the Akashic records. And so I think that was what kind of opened me up to different ways, shall we say, of looking at things. And from there, I think it was when I met you that I got into Byron Katie, who then takes this whole notion of all this trauma that we've been focusing on and what have you, wanting to release, is all actually just the story. And that's very powerful work. So Byron Katie, I'll put a link in to her as well, because and I know that you've done a lot of work with Byron Katie as well, haven't you, with clients and yourself?
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. I mean, I never even considered past. It's not that I dismissed past lives or didn't believe in them. It makes it kind of sense to me. It's just I never really thought about it, because to me it was sort of obvious that our energy kind of comes and goes like that. So I didn't really think about it, and I didn't know anything about soul alignment or, you know, soul contracts or anything like that until kind of you. And I mean, I'd heard about it, but you really introduced me to that, and I still don't really fully get it. I just trust you that you're telling me that, yeah, because it's sort of, yeah, it, you know, when you told me about my soul, it made sense. I kind of went, oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, I see that. Yeah. It it's just another level of kind of another way to get to know myself from a perspective that I wasn't aware of. Like a natal chart, an astrology chart or something. It's just another way of kind of, yeah,
Self-realization.
Self-realization. Yes, indeed. So I've lost track. What were we talking about?
No, I asked you about Byron Katie and how she's helped you on your awakening journey.
All right. I sort of talked about this in our last chat last week, but she simplifies everything. She brings it back to what is now, what is, and everything else is story. Everything else, yeah, she calls it story. Other people call it narrative, but
Trauma.
Yeah, trauma is story, I mean, that sounds like it's being dismissive, but it's a really feels like a really real traumatic experience, but actually it's story. Memory is story. Worry about the future, projection is story. The only thing that's real is here and now. And sometimes I feel that I feel that that's true. I know that that's true. There's an inner knowing that that's true, but I have to remind myself of it very often because my mind is really, really good at making up stories and making them feel important and real. And, it's vital that I believe this story.
Yeah.
I get, the more I practice, the better I get at saying, no, story, not going there, not listening, not listening. And then I regain my sense of peace. But, as soon as that I get that, if it's a really persistent story, I keep jumping onto the hamster wheel and, having to drag myself off it, until it eventually goes away. But it's very useful because even, excuse me, even while I'm listening to the story, it's interesting that I'm talking about story and my throat is trying to shut me up. Even while I'm on the hamster wheel of the story, even when I am kind of enjoying, I can see myself, I can feel myself enjoying the story, no matter how traumatic it is, no matter how worrisome or horrific the story is. There's part of me that goes, yeah, more and more. It's like, choosing to watch a horror movie or, people loving gory details about, murders and mysteries and all that sort of thing. It's like you get stuck into the story, right? And you're repelled and enjoying it at the same time. But now I'm just aware that, I've chosen to watch this movie or read this book, or, read this story. So I'm aware that I'm not the story. I'm aware that it's not real. On some level, on a more conscious level than I used to be, I guess. What about you?
Well, it reminds me of what Albert Einstein said about, I think he was talking about time. I can't remember when he said, it's an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. I want to take that and say that about trauma or stories. Trauma is a story, albeit a very persistent one. And I remember when we were working, a couple of years ago, it must have been 2020, when who didn't wake up a bit in 2020, right? We were working on Byron Katie's, and you were working with me, and well, not just then, but many times. And I said, "Oh, can we do a Byron Katie?" And I go into story, and you would say to me straight away, "That story, that story, that story," right? And I'd be really upset, and I'd be like, "Right, Liz, I know this is story. Can I tell you my story, please?" And I remember saying to you a couple of times, "Can I tell you my story?" And you could see that I needed to talk about my story. So we're not dismissing the role of counselors, the role of a good friend in sharing your trauma and your stories to a loved one, because that does carry a lot of weight and relief and all sorts of other things. So we're not dismissing trauma in any shape or form. But it is a persistent story, because I remember you graciously giving me the time to let me talk about my story, and I think but I think there is a role for that as well. I think it is all, you know, the right therapy, shall we say. Well, the right teacher comes along at the right when the student's ready. So I think, you know, this is what we're talking about, right? From, you know, from the physical massage to the different layers of energy, or the however you want to perceive it, you know, the different perceptions of energy. There are different modalities, shall we say. And Byron Katie is up there, I think, because one of her favorite her videos, that is one of my favorite, is a very short one where she literally is talking to somebody about, you know, their relationship with someone who's triggering them. And she literally says, "You're trying to change someone who doesn't exist." And she's literally saying that you're trying to change someone who doesn't exist. And I'm like, well, okay. So this whole concept, the quantum physics concept, I like to call it, of there is only you, and everybody outside of you is a reflection of you. I mean, that takes you into that level, right?
Yeah, but I'd like to kind of clarify that, because that can seem very kind of narcissistic. There is only me, so affect the rest of you. It's not like that at all. There is only me in my reality, and there is only you in your reality. You do exist. So when Katie is talking about you're trying to change someone who doesn't exist, it's because it's not that person doesn't exist. It's that your idea of who they are isn't real, because we have our own ideas. You know, our brain uses our senses to process information, but it's our brain that makes that into the person that we see in front of us. The person that we see in front of us may not, you know, doesn't look or feel the way we have imagined them to look and feel. And so that's why they don't exist. It's not that the person doesn't exist. They exist in their own right. And I exist in my own right. But, you know, I mean, look at me. I'm sitting here now, a gray-haired lady. I had black hair, you know. So which is the real me? You know, this could be a computer program that has changed my hair color or changed the shape of my face or whatever. I mean, we can do that now. There's software to change and the visual aspect. So that's just the phone or the computer processing the information in a different way. And that's what each of our brains does. It processes the information in our unique way for our perception. Yeah, so that's what I just wanted to clarify, that it's not like when I say there is only me, there's only me from the perspective of this moment in the and this point of view. I'm standing on this rock, on this mountain, looking out at the world. There is only me in this moment.
Mm.
At that perspective, at this level of consciousness, at this level of understanding. It doesn't mean that you standing on your rock, on your mountain from your perspective, that you're not, or that your perspective isn't valid, or your reality isn't valid, or your experience isn't valid. It is just as it's absolutely as valid to you.
But yeah, I think that the way to explain it, the way I explain it, is when we say there is only me, I think what I'm trying to say is there is only me creating my reality.
Yes.
And you are creating your reality. There is only you creating your reality. So the person that we were triggered by, or the relationship that we were referring to with that Byron Katie that doesn't exist, it's we have created what we have created our perception. You talked about the perception, our filter, our story has, I want to say our story has polluted the person, or we have created our version of that person. We've created that version of the person, because there is only me, yes, but there is only me creating my reality, and there is only you created. You're on that mountaintop creating your reality. So other people exist, but no one else is creating their reality, your reality, only you. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Something like that.
The other thing I just wanted to touch on before we finish, you did mention briefly astrology and birth charts, and I honestly think it should be taught in schools. And I think when you realize the power of something, you then want to study it. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to move away from this need for certificates and everything, because I'm not quite sure why you have to have a certificate to prove that you can do something.
You're creating that reality, Deborah. Who says you have to have a certificate? You say.
Well, I think that was the old paradigm. I'm moving away. I'm creating a reality where you don't have to. But just if you're inspired to study something. But I'm saying that because obviously I'm so aware now of astrology and the power of astrology, and I think astrology is like, I've said this about yoga as well. I think yoga is a gift from consciousness for us to use as a vehicle to enlighten. And I think astrology is the same thing. It's a gift from consciousness to use as a vehicle to enlighten, because there is so much that we can learn and self-realize through astrology. And I wish I had known, I don't want to change it, I'm doing what I'm doing, right? But I'm now exploring astrology and finding amazing things going on. And I do find with the cards, I find that the Wheel of Fortune is very much about destiny and fate. And I always recommend when that comes up, it's about soul profiles, making sure people know who they are at soul level. But also I often encourage people to get their birth charts read. It's not something I offer yet. But it's something that I can see the value of, so this is continually going on, isn't it? The learning, the growing, and I want to say the looking for clues in our self-realization. It's like a treasure hunt. It's like a treasure hunt, and astrology is to me a chest of treasure at the moment. I'm finding nuggets of self-realization, but of course I'm also using it on other people that I love and finding out so much about them too, which is just like, so really, if we studied this in school, and if everybody knew their north nodes in schools, and as teachers we could help them realize, but or at least they could self-realize, we could but anyway, everything happens in divine timing. I'm just getting this divine timing and patience and all of these lovely things as well, which is all part of spiritual awareness. But I wanted to just mention astrology. It's like to me it's like a key to a massive door, don't you think?
Totally. I mean, I don't know much about astrology either, but when I had my natal chart done and read, it was so enlightening. It just made everything make sense, from where I was coming from, all my life's experiences, to, you know, giving me that sense of permission to follow my heart rather than what I thought would make money, or, you know, would whatever, the right thing to do that would be approved of. My natal chart, my North Node, kind of gave me the direction to follow, and it's just kind of giving you permission, really.
Yeah, and it's also inspiring these videos with you.
Yeah.
My North Node. So hopefully in the future we can do maybe a video on astrology, and from a beginner's perception, because, you know, that's what I was saying, neither of us are qualified. I'm not quite sure how one does become qualified. I mean, there are courses that
you know, of all things, is intuitive, really intuitive. I don't think qualification is required. It's like tarot reading. You don't need a, you know, diploma or a certificate. It's not like, you know, massage or something where you could actually physically harm somebody. You know,
yeah.
You need, then maybe you need some sort of level of, I don't know, maybe.
So brilliant. And I think we have brought it up to the non-physical. We have brought it up to the quantum physics that lies behind energy healing and all things energy related. Not that we're claiming to be quantum physicists, of course, but I think I like the term energy psychology, because I guess that kind of covers all of it. So thank you for sharing this conversational journey with me into our awakenings throughout our life, and continuing. We talked in the last video about your satsang sessions, and my massive aha moments then, when I dropped the string of my trauma, and yeah, that was an awakening in itself. So still moving forward, still dropping the stories, and learning and living and giving and expanding, I should say, into more of who we are, and expanding into more of our North Node. We can say that. Is there anything you want to share or to say before we say goodbye?
No, I think we've covered it all, and, you know, we'll have another chat next time.
We will do. We'll pick a topic, have a chat next time. So lots of love to you all. See you soon in the next video. Bye for now.